This is Love Life, and I'm Dr. Babe. Today is all about how we express ourselves through love, passion, and sexuality. Our topic today is modern dating and relationships. Relationships have evolved tremendously over the centuries, from the intention of economic and political networking, polygamy, and domestic partnerships. Most traditional relationships were historically sought out for security, convenience, companionship, and social standing. But nowadays, relationships are being deferred or even passed over for attempts to find true love with a soulmate. Aziz Ansari talks about this in his book, Modern Romance, which has now been adapted into a Netflix series, Master of None. Definitely worth looking up. I have a feeling today's show is going to be epic. Not only do we have two of Cayman's most interesting people, but this is my absolute favorite topic. We are definitely going to be talking openly about some taboo topics today, all in the spirit of embracing our humanity. Our guests today are Natasha Casebolt and Todd Hazlewood. Let's see what they have to say on Love Life. We're back here on Love Life, and here are my guests, Natasha Casebolt and Todd Hazlewood. Your last names are like so similar, I get a little tongue-tied. So how are you guys today? I really wanted to bring you on to talk about this sort of big topic of like modern dating and where it's at, but tell us a little bit about yourselves and where you're at and how you got to this place in your life.
I've been on island for about 10 years, and the dating life here is obviously very hit and miss. And I'm currently in a relationship. I've had a boyfriend for almost 4 years, and things are going really good. And I feel definitely every relationship you're in, you learn a little something new, and it adds to the next relationship and the next relationship. So I feel pretty comfortable where I'm at right now, and I'm pretty happy, and feel that I'm definitely winning in that situation right now.
Yeah, and I think that personal experience really brings a lot of content that we can discuss today. Just that growth. I mean, we all do learn a lot from every relationship that we're in, but also what you do for a living. I'm sure you see a lot and you hear a lot of other people's business. So that might be helpful for us today.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And what about for you, Todd?
So I've been here 12 years. Definitely been in and out of relationships, and I've been single for the last couple of years. So navigating the landscape of the dating world has been interesting and eye-opening, and it has changed, since I've been here. There's technology has made dating very interesting, and it keeps you on your toes for sure.
No doubt. So what is modern dating like? How would you describe it? Just sort of generally, what's your first impression of what things are? Make the assessment for modern dating.
I don't know. It's weird. I feel like it changes as you get older, definitely, depending on the situation that you're in. But living on this island, obviously, is probably very different from, living in the States or Canada or somewhere like that. I don't feel like there's a whole lot of actual dating, or at least when I was younger, it was more just like going out to a bar, having some fun with somebody, and, hooking up a few times, and if it works out, then you're like, oh, you see each other a lot more. It turns into a relationship, and I think that's kind of how it is right now, at least here.
It's definitely changed. I think, I remember my first girlfriend, and we dated long distance, and I actually wrote hand letters and sent her in the mail with a stamp on the envelope, right? And so, now I think you've got the ability to keep in touch with people over distances, and I think there's a lot less taboos than there used to be. I mean, you can, age difference is not a huge thing as much as it used to be. And so, I think it opens things up a lot for people in the dating scene.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think there's a lot of issues there when we talk about technology, perhaps even the dating apps that are available. I mean, Tinder is like a controversial one that I think people joke about mostly, but I don't know if you have a particular opinion about those things, if they're helpful or if they hurt the whole process of dating. What do you think?
I have actually never used Tinder or experienced Tinder, but I actually do have a friend who used to live here and went away on rollover and was hanging out in Miami and used Tinder and met up with a few girls, and I always thought it was like a one-night stand thing. Again, I don't really know much about it, but he actually has been in a relationship with one of the ladies that he found on it for almost like 5 months now, and it seems to be going really well. So
success story.
I don't know,
Tinder's interesting, but you've got to realize that there's so many more. There's Bumble, there's Happen, there's so many. There's apps for having threesomes. There's apps for just hooking up. There's so many different things out there, and it's like going to a bar, but then you can actually know it. What every face has a name and has a background and has more than one photo, and so you can actually like look on a menu and see what you want without having to have that hit and miss interaction where you go and talk to somebody and you can't stand them and it was a waste of time. You can actually go through and look and say, oh, there's one. Let me find out more about them. Let me chat with them first and see if it's somebody that I actually want to continue to talk to before you even meet.
Yeah, and I mean, I think there are some success stories in using these apps, depending on what your intention is. And I think it's about lining up with another person who has the same intention of using these kinds of mediums of finding people. But I guess on the downside, when it comes to these dating apps, do you feel like there's a lot more of objectification of people into more sexual objects and perpetuating that whole hookup phenomenon of sort of reducing the relationship to a sexual, maybe temporary relationship versus something that's more emotional, more authentic?
I think it's more, what does each person want?
Yeah.
If somebody really just wants a hookup and somebody else does, then it's a great way for them to meet. And it's a great way also to suss out what each person wants. I think for a lot of people, physical appearance is important. And so for them to go through and be able to identify somebody that they know they're already attracted to, it makes it easier for them. And it can be considered objectification, but for each person, it depends on what is important to them. If somebody doesn't care about physical appearance, they could just look at the profile, for example, and see what is the person interesting. So it opens things up, I think.
I think that it would be a little bit hard because I think that a lot of stuff gets lost without the physical interaction to begin with, right? Your what it is that you're looking for can get lost or misread. Just like, when you're having a fight over text message or something, like you can take the tones in different ways or, interpret it in different ways. So I think, and there's probably a lot of BS out there too, a lot of people lying. And so I think it's one of those things that you have to be really smart about or know how to weed out what you don't want there. I don't know.
There's definitely people out there that are putting pictures up that don't really look like them in
or you
real
could lie
life.
about everything if you wanted.
Yeah.
Is where when you talk to somebody, you could actually pick up on, there's a lot with human interaction that is a tell-all.
Energy, vibe.
Yeah.
Last week we talked a little bit about masculine and feminine energies, and it's interesting because men being sort of stereotyped as the ones that want more sexual interaction. I was wondering if you agree with that, or if you feel like there are women who are equally interested in expressing themselves sexually out there.
I think that nowadays, because it's more acceptable for a man or a woman to be more like a man, and they're coming out of their shells and they're just as powerful and just as strong, and so I feel like they're just as aggressive in that retrospect as men are these days, and they can feel more open about it because they're not so judged. I mean, there still is definitely women get judged a lot harder than men, but I feel like they're more confident in coming out and being able to be open with that.
Before I get to your opinion, Todd, we do have to take a break, so we'll be right back. Stick with us, and we'll talk more about this topic.